what's going on, Ricardo?
I am very good, sir. How are you? Feeling really
Good. Thank God it's Friday. It's been a heck of a week. Went to Vegas, enjoyed myself at a wedding, and then lost one of the closest people in my life, my aunt, who was a big part of who I am. So, but she's really, really, really in a better place. You know how sometimes we say that, and it's kind of like a saying. In this case, it really is. Yeah. How about you? How was your week?
Well, man, the Bible says, weep with those when you're happy, I'm happy, and when you're sad, I'm sad. So, getting to talk to you earlier this week and finding out the news, I say it was tough because I'm an empath, and I heard from my friend. You're one of my best friends, and I knew immediately that this woman meant a lot to you. Outside of that, it is good to see you again, my friend. I am grateful for your friendship.
I'm glad, and a lot of times, kind of getting back to normalcy, and this is one of the things that I enjoy doing. So, we're here to talk football. It's about that time.
Oh yes,
and we're not going to bore you with just our boring opinions. We're going to bring in some real experts from a real football show. Some of our favorite guys, to be honest, just period. So without further ado, let's add Adam and Hunter from the Falcons Nest.
Woo!
What's going on? What's going on, guys?
Yo, what up?
Welcome. Great to have you in. We're putting your logo up because we know everybody already knows our logo. So the Falcons Nest, go look for them across any platforms. They both have great Twitter pages. If you like football and you're not following them, I don't know what you're doing. Hunter, you got Hunter here. H. Thompson, NFL. He's doing big things. You also have Adamski. They're both doing big things. So it is just great to have both of you guys in here with us. We're going to talk some football. We're going to talk about the Falcons. The game. This is at a great time because if you know what you're watching, you're really not missing anything. And even if you're catching it on the rewatch. So thank you, Kylie, for welcoming the cool guys from Falcons Nest. So we're gonna get into it, and these are real Falcons fans and real Falcons analysts. So, I hate when analysts try to pretend like they're not fans, or fans try to pretend like they're analysts. We're hitting it right down the middle here. So,
so nice of you.
Appreciate the hype.
So let's go over the Falcons offseason a little bit. What let's go all the way back to the end of last season and bring us as succinctly here as possible. So who wants to take a stab at that?
Hunter, since you haven't been on a pod lately, you can crack this one first.
All right, bet. So I mean, obviously we fired.
You're fine.
See, what's this guy doing, man?
I don't know. I mean, if we go all the way back to the start, we fired Dan Quinn.
So since we can't hear you still, so since he's trying to figure out what he's doing, I'll kick it off. Obviously disappointing season. We decided running back with Dan Quinn and the boys. Didn't work out, to everybody's surprise, I guess. But most of us knew that wasn't going to work, especially with Dirk Cutter kind of calling the offense. But things looked a little better towards the end of the season. But Raheem Morris couldn't obviously right that ship, and I enjoy Raheem Morris. I'm a big fan of his. So yeah, it sucks to see him go. But you usher in kind of a new regime with an offensive coach. I think first one under Matt Ryan. So he comes in and
Can you all hear me now?
He kind of runs that outside zone scheme that Matt Ryan and them went to the Super Bowl with. Obviously lesser talent now because due to the big dog Julio leaving. I think that all broke our hearts. It was one of those things we draft Kyle Pitts and we're all excited. and then it's like, well, something's got to give. It's not like we're Falcons fans. We know it's going to be upsetting at some point here. So obviously we trade. I'm going to say the franchise greatest receiver, and
there's no doubt there.
Yeah, exactly. People like to argue, and people don't like the way he left, but it is what it is. I mean, like, all breakups aren't good breakups. Like, that's just the reality of things, right? And it happens, and you know what I mean. He gets his right to not want to be a part of a rebuild. So I mean, he's a winner. That's what he said. All he cares about is winning. And then 3 years wears on you, not going to the playoffs. It's frustrating for him. So, you see it from an athlete's point of view. Anybody that's actually played a sport and has gone through losing seasons, like, it sucks. Like, you don't, if you have a way out and you have a different vision, and, sometimes that's just it, just hearing different voices and different ways and stuff. And then he goes to a similar scheme where in Tennessee they run a lot of 12 and 11 personnel, so he'll see his one-man matchups, right? So he's still going to be good, but a lot of questions for me this whole offseason. I know me and Hunter were in a huge, obviously, group chat just because Hunter writes for ATB and I help run the podcast for Around the Block. ATB's Around the Block Falcons. It's an up-and-coming place, but yeah, so me and him bounce things off one another quite a bit. So I know he's feeling the same way. We're kind of just trying to see the vision, but we also understand that it's a rebuild. Like, realistically, like, no matter what Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot say it, you look at the team, like, they're reluctant to sign a left guard. Like, if they were trying to win, like, right this second, they could have went and got one, right? So yeah, it's like, it's going to take some time. That's it. Like, for me, I'm understanding. I just understand people are like with huge visions of like trying to win the Super Bowl now and stuff is, I don't know. Like, you seen today, the offensive line doesn't look too great. So, I mean, it could be a long, like, we got all the weapons in the world, but you don't have guys to block. It's going to suck, You guys know, in the trenches, if you don't have guys to block, that's it. A quick little synopsis there.
No, very good.
Pretty good synopsis right there.
Very good. I'm encouraged because as soon as you're talking, I'm like, oh yeah, he thinks like,
yeah,
this is gonna go well.
Yeah. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know.
It's a very good thing for me.
I'll make no secret about it. I wanted a QB. I was obviously infatuated with Justin Fields. He went to Ohio State. I'm a Buckeyes guy, so I did want him, but like I said before, you're never going to get mad at such a freak like Kyle Pitts coming in. Like, it's so hard to be mad at that, right? Yeah.
He's woo. I'm gonna let Hunter go. Like, I will say, I am in Chicago.
Hunter can't talk right now. He
still can't talk,
bro. Can y'all hear me now?
I can hear you.
We can always hear you. I thought it was around the block bullying. I didn't know it was. I thought Adam was hating. I'm doing this.
But Hunter, man, we've actually, all of us actually have known Hunter like since Hunter was in diapers almost. Like, he was young, man.
Man, y'all know he was high school.
15, 14 or something, man.
Yeah, something like that.
Man, I got a big brother him all the time. But Hunter, we still cannot hear you. Like, you're just gonna have to drink on your own.
I hear him fine.
I can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you fine.
We can hear him fine. Yeah. But
that's good.
Can you hear us fine?
Yeah, I can hear y'all just fine.
You guys fine.
Okay, and we can hear you fine. I hear every one of you.
I can hear Adam fine too. But who knows? But
it's probably for the best that I don't hear.
So, what's your take, Hunter? What's your take on off season coming in now? Then we're going to get into some position analysis and what do you think we're going to happen? What I heard was Adam say this magic word or this dirty word, rebuilding. And I think that there's a struggle here because certain fans don't want to embrace the rebuilding. Right. And there is a little bit of disconnect when you say we're keeping a quarterback and then we're keeping a experienced quarterback that's highly paid. Mm-hmm. that means you're not rebuilding. But then everything else you kind of did in the offseason kind of looks like rebuilding. Where are we, Hunter?
Right. So I'm kind of the mindset that like every NFL team is constantly rebuilding, because the way the game changes, it goes through these big revamps every couple of years. You know, things like dual threat quarterbacks have popped up. Big nickel defenses have started taking over games now. So teams are constantly always having to retool and rebuild their teams. So I don't think the word rebuild is nearly as scary as people make it out to be. I think the big reason that so many fans have such an issue with that word is because typically when the word rebuild gets thrown around, it typically involves replacing the franchise quarterback, which we did not do, obviously. As much as I would have loved Trey Lance or Justin Fields, we didn't do that. So it's kind of a weird rebuild because we're kind of going with what the Chargers did right now, where we're starting to what looks to be rebuilding the roster around an aging quarterback. And then whenever we decide, okay, this roster is ready to compete, we kind of move on from the quarterback and take someone younger.
So you're telling me we're going to get we're going to get Justin Herbert.
I mean, I wish I was saying that, but I think that's what we're going to try to do. Is I think we're just going to try to build the roster up and then take a shot and like throw a dart at a quarterback and hope it sticks. I don't know if that's the route I would go about if I was GM, but I think that's the route we are doing.
That's a good point. That's a good point because it was like we're keeping Matt. Well, we must be keeping Julio. We must be doing this. We must be doing that. But in the end, what we did was execute, besides the quarterback, really a full rebuild when we start looking into these positions and looking at who played last year. And, it kind of tells a different story. And you never see a front office or a head coach say, no, we're going to lose pretty bad, guys. It's going to look pretty ugly. And I think there's a way to rebuild without it getting ugly, right? I think that, for example, Dallas is in the middle of a rebuild. The Cowboys, shout out to our friends in Texas, they're in the middle of a rebuild, but because their division is so sorry, they could probably be worse than the Falcons when we play, and they could still win their division, right? So a lot of kind of, do we say rebuild or not rebuild, is we have the returning Super Bowl champions who kept every single important player and another year in the system for Tom Brady. It's hard to put rebuilding behind that. But so I think that's something that has to see. And then obviously for marketing purposes. So when we talk about what's good and what's bad, let's go through some groups and then let's talk about what you're hearing from training camp so far. And then what do you think is going to happen? So let's start in the trenches. If you watched the first half of the game today, it got kind of ugly. And by the way, let me just tell you how the NFL works. This was a whole gentleman's agreement game because if you watch the rest of the preseason games, other teams played their starters at least one series, right? And Tennessee and the Falcons, two staffs that are very familiar with each other, just happened to not play the exact same players. I think they had a gentleman's agreement going in, which I'm fine with. So I'm not overreacting to how we looked or whatever, but I do have some concerns. And let's start off with the trenches. So Adam, what's good and what's bad about our offensive line as currently constructed?
The good news is we're switching to a better scheme. So the outside zone and the inside zone stuff and a little bit of power. Like Arthur Smith, honestly, he runs a little bit of everything. But he's efficient at it, right? In terms of players, obviously Chris Lindstrom, he fits across any scheme. Yeah. He can get out and run, hit, block, pass block. He's the one Thomas Dimitroff pick over the past couple of years that's really solidified himself as me and Hunter go back and forth this. I'd say top 10 right guard in football right now. I think that's fair.
Yeah, what a chance to be even better.
And that's I don't think he's reached his ceiling yet. Yeah, and,
right.
he's got like Chris Lindstrom. I almost feel like he's like dragging Caleb McGarry to Keenan Forney's coaching. Like, isn't that what it kind of feels like? He's like, because like he trains with Keenan Forney, and then he's like, oh, I had to bring McGarry there. I was like, oh, like why isn't he just going there anyways? That's like a free resource, right? But so Lindstrom, top 10 right guard. And then you got Jake Matthews, who, everybody just looks on that holding call in the Super Bowl and is like, oh, he's garbage now. But he's actually sturdy. Like, he's still a top 13, 14 tackle, which you can get away with that.
Let me tell you, he's my Mr. Unappreciated.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you had if you had a sorry left tackle, you would wish you had a Jake Matthews.
Yeah, for sure.
Is he Dwayne Brown? No. Is he Walter Jones? No. Is he? But I'm telling you, where he is, you keep saying, you just remember, oh, this guy beat him. Okay, so you just told me one guy beat him in 16 games. Overall, he does. The only time I get scared is when Jake Matthews is facing a sorry pass rusher. Because if he's facing a good pass rusher, he is going to give them the business. They're going to have a tough time getting there. So I think for whatever reasons, the Falcons fans choose guys that they want to attack. Jake Matthews is one of them. But go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. And that was a great assessment. Like, I love Jake, and you know what I mean? We drafted him, 2013? Parked him at left tackle. Well, we didn't really park him at left tackle.
We started him at right tackle, and Sam Baker.
We basically we put him at left tackle from there, and we haven't heard from him in now 9 years, right? So it's like that's exactly what you want. You just want him to be sturdy. And like you said, like there's at least half a dozen teams in the league, or a dozen teams in the league that would kill for a left tackle like him. So yeah, he's sturdy. It starts getting a little gleamy, but one thing you need about 2 good offensive linemen, and then you need at least 3 average ones to make have the makings of a better offensive line. And
so you mean to tell me you don't need 5 All Pros across the
People think so. They're like, draft every round. They're like, no.
What about this myth? So when you see these big debates, well, Matt Ryan holds the ball too long. No, our offensive line is terrible. And then if you look at the top 5, top 10 guys who take sacks, they're the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah,
who takes a lot of sacks? Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers.
It's just processing.
And Matt Ryan.
That's it, right?
So let's stop using that. I'm tired of seeing that. Well, Matt Ryan is taking the 3rd most sacks in the last. Look at the rest of the top 5. It's just all the good guys. You know who hasn't taken a lot of sacks in the last? Taysom Hill. He hasn't taken a lot of sacks. So if you want that guy, you can have him. But that whole myth. But go ahead. I just had to get on my soapbox there because that sacks gets thrown out there a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So like I said, that's where it's you kind of come down. We have our two offensive linemen, and then McGarry's average. Like he like people like to rag on him, but since we
love McGarry.
Yeah, like he's McGarry. He's a tough kid. For the first year in, he had a whirlwind season, like between injuries and I think he's got a heart problem or something. I think that's what set him off. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a rough season, honestly. And then last year, he actually cut all of his pressures, all of his sacks numbers at least in half. And I mean, people always scream about like development and stuff until they see it, and they're like, they just attribute the one bad season. They don't see the stuff, right? Yeah. So I mean, so he did all that, so he improved. So the next step is cutting those numbers in half now, and then now you're in the makings almost as a good right tackle. So that's where it is. So it gets really friggin' gloomy right here at left guard and center. I know people like to say that we're okay with Hennessy, but 3-game sample size getting absolutely wrecked the whole 3 games is not something that I'm okay with personally. I don't know, because like it's like, oh yeah, he was facing Vita Vea, but it wasn't just Vita Vea. Like the backups were coming in and beating the brakes off of him, right? So it wasn't.
He was facing Chris Jones. He was facing.
No, but it wasn't just those guys. Like, yeah, he's going
Right.
to lose to those guys. That's a given. But it wasn't just those guys that were coming in that beating the brakes off of him. So yeah, like I was, I kind of this little last bit of the offseason as training camp was going on, I kind of rewatched the back end of the games because then you kind of see the players that were kept, so to speak. And so I was just watching, you know, I was trying to chart some tight end stuff, who's covering tight ends and whatnot like that. So I just, you know, Hennessy started those 3 games, so I was like, okay, let me check out Hennessy and see what he's doing. And it was bad. Like honestly, it was bad. I understand he was kind of in a miscat scheme there, but it's just like I don't know. I feel like he's lacking that aggression on the O-line to, like, you know what I mean, just want to run through somebody's face. And that it's kind of upsetting because he doesn't he doesn't pull really well and be very physical on runs. I like when we drafted Drew Dahlman, I was like, you know what, like Drew at least does that. Like he's like a heat-seeking missile. He tries to take people out. But and then he struggles in pass pro. So it's like, hopefully he got better.
So
but like he
besides not being very functionally strong, which was his and having short arms, not pulling well, not anchoring against the run, and not pass blocking. He looked great. Besides that, he looked great. Is kind of what I'm hearing as your assessment.
And like his aesthetic for a center looks terrible too. So I mean, he's rocking one glove, no sleeves. Like, what's this guy doing here? No, I'm just joking. But no, he gained some weight and apparently has looked better according to Lindstrom and Jake Matthews. So you know, we'll see how that plays out. And
we
you know,
have to
we'll
keep
get a
our
17
fingers
game.
crossed on that.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get a 17 game sample size here. Left guard is honestly like what is this, year 5? We're still trying to find a left guard. Like I just like I don't know, man. Like it's just like I don't know. Josh Andrews, he got absolutely wrecked today. From what I didn't even hear the game, but that was the only thing I heard from the O-line is Andrews got tossed around.
He is not the answer.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And it's like people are like trying to pitch this guy to me all year. I'm like, listen, I watch the games and I watch the games that he plays. And I don't know how anybody can watch that and be like, you know what, maybe we got something there. But, you know, I don't know, maybe we got something there.
So here's Jameet's guide to watching the preseason.
Come on.
Forget about the score. What Adam just talked about is just look at one-on-one matchups between guys. And, you know, you could talk scheme. You could talk about what plays they're going to call in the regular season. But just like I had this same thing with Peter France, the first preseason game. A guy, he wasn't a starter, so he was going against a backup, and he just got driven into 6 yards into the back to the goalpost by a guy who never played an NFL down. And I was like, you remember Peter Cons? And I was like, oh my gosh, we
You mean Matt Hennessy before Matt Hennessy?
Oh jeez, don't say that.
So I mean,
it's been my comp for him ever since I watched him.
So I mean,
yeah, I know, but
you can get better at certain things, and you're going to miss some blocks. You're going to get pancake. A guy's going to beat you on a block. But I personally don't like when I see offensive linemen getting thrown around, it concerns me because even Aaron Donald shouldn't be able to throw you around 3 plays in a row. Like Aaron Donald's going to throw you around, and then he's going to do something else to you, and then you're going to get double and triple team help. But if 3 plays in a row, regardless of scheme, he just throws you like a piece of tissue, I'm concerned. And I saw too much of that from Matt Hennessy last year, and I saw a little bit too much of that with Josh Andrews, who I was very skeptical of. And so, but one of the good things that preseason does for us is it kind of informs the coaches because let's look at what happened at Carolina. The guy hit the guy at Carolina and he got cut. So that is the guillotine hanging over every practice. I'm never giving you my 100%. I'm never getting as dirty with you. So a lot of those platitudes that you hear in training camp, once you see that's one thing you can't fake in a preseason game because that guy doesn't care whether you make the team or tear your ACL or not. He's playing for his career. So then when you see that, that's what I'm looking for in preseason games. So what do you got for us, Hunter, about that offensive line? What's your thoughts?
I mean, it's kind of like what Adam said. I think you just have to have 2 good linemen, 3 decent linemen, and you'll have a good one. But right now we have 2 above average and 1 average, and then we have 2 just dumpster fires at center and left guard. And it's frustrating because typically when quarterbacks get older, you want to build the interior of the line to strengthen that because,
pocket quarterbacks, that is.
Pocket quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Tampa did that with Brady. Steelers have been doing that with Ben.
Saints did it.
Saints did it with Breeze.
Yeah.
And then we're sitting here with, 2 of the most important positions on the line. Well, all 5 are important, but like 2 of the biggest question marks in the league at left guard and center. I'm not a Hennessy fan at all. I think he's Peter Kahn's 2.0, which is not good. So hopefully Dahlman can show us something this preseason and maybe compete for that.
He's just for me, he's like super light on his feet. Like that's what bothers me. Like I don't know. Like you Jameed and Ricardo can attest to this. I like those big 330s that are going to knock you on your butt, right? Like those are my kind of offense linemen. Like I don't know. Sorry to cut you off, Hunter, but
no, you're good.
I'm watching Hennessy and it's just like if I'm on a field with Hennessy, like me versus Hennessy, I'm not even scared of Hennessy. So I can only imagine what Aaron Donald is, right?
And at least with Dahlman, even so, both of them are undersized. Let's say, but Dahlman is that feisty guy. Mm-hmm. Dahlman is that feisty, get in your face. I'm gonna block you to the, and so we'll see how this shakes out. But right now, to Hunter's point, you might have 4 positions solid and a guy that you're hoping works out. We got 2. We can make out 3 guys that we're hoping works out, and that's not a recipe for offensive line success.
Especially when you have a pocket quarterback. Like speaking of what Hunter was saying, like you need to make significant investments on that O-line, right? So I don't know.
To that point, let me ask you guys something. I mean, we got probably one of the smartest GMs in the league right now, correct? Mm-hmm. I mean, I hate the Saints, but I was like the last 3 years, geez, how did they get that guy? But they got that guy too. Yeah. So if he's pretty smart and they see what you see, what do you think are they saying without saying it right now? What do you think they're saying
after this game or are we saying
period? Like what they don't have? I mean, any armchair quarterback will tell you, hey, if you have a pocket passer, you need to protect them from the inside. Mm-hmm. The fact that they didn't make a concerted effort to do so, what is that saying about where we're at? What's this year? Where are we going? I
see. That's why I hate to say it again, but me and Hunter, like we talk about it too. Like I honestly think this is just a wait and see kind of year. Like, okay, let's see what we got here. Next year we'll make our big significant moves. Like we just had a huge chat today about Deion Jones versus Foyesade Olakun. Like who would be, because Olakun's a free agent after the year. I made the argument that Olakun fits this scheme better than Deion Jones does. So I said, for me, you get like $10.9 million by trading Deion Jones. I would probably do that to keep Olakun, because as special as Deion Jones is, you need thumpers in the 3-4 and like the over-under schemes that Dean Pease runs. So for me, I would assume that Olakun would be a better fit. And we had a couple guys rebuttal it, but like honestly, if we can keep both, that's the best case scenario. Those two are.
But that's fantasy talk. That's fantasy talk. Real talk is you're likely to have to choose between them. And I saw a guy on Twitter arguing Debo over Foye because of weight, and I was like, "Huh? Seriously? Like you're first of all, if you really believe that Deion has ever weighed 238, I got a bridge to sell you, right? So both of them are similar profile players that in a decade ago they both would have been playing safety. So that's not the argument. Like, he's 6 pounds. And to your point, Adam, the linebackers that fit this scheme are either they don't have to be as fast as Debo is because they need to be 250. So they can jam some linebackers. They can do some replacements against guards and some things like that when you run that scheme. So, but sticking with offense, the tight end, let's talk about our tight ends. I think a little bit we're getting carried away with tight ends because they're like, oh, we got the greatest tight ends in the world. Like, slow down, buddy, slow down. So you give us your take on our tight end group, one of our stronger groups, without a doubt.
I'll let Hunter take this.
All right, bet. So I absolutely adore Hayden Hurst, and I love I didn't love the Pitts pickup at the time, just because
he's a South Carolina fan. That's why.
Well, that's why I love Hurst. Yes, but I didn't love the Pitts pickup because I wanted a quarterback. But after we picked Pitts, I obviously just kind of like went in and like, okay, cool. Start reevaluating what he does well and what he does, and the duo of them can provide so much for the offense. And with Arthur Smith's just scheme, and him being the offensive guru that he is, he's going to figure out ways to use them both in multiple situations that are going to help open up the offense. Like, for instance, with Matt Ryan, he's always loved his tight end play. He's always had good relationships with his tight ends, and I see that continuing with Pitts and Hurts for sure. Lee Smith, I don't know why we traded for, him, but whatever. I mean, if he's as good at blocking as they say, like, so be it. But
play left guard for us.
Play left. We should have brought back Toilolo, honestly. That's fine.
That's the one player I was like, why did we ever let him go? You're such a decent, like, I don't know. He's obviously
that man played left tackle for us a little bit, or right tackle, or whatever it was in a game. Like, we should have kept Toilolo, but whatever.
Right.
Honestly, though, like the Jaden Graham injury, like that one kind of hurt a little bit.
That hurt me. That hurt me. I was sad for Jaden. And I thought he's done everything that you ask a developmental guy to do. Mm-hmm. And I thought that this would be his opportunity to kind of learn under Lee Smith, because he had a better chance of being retained between the Hurst, that whole group, going into next year.
Exactly. But I don't know. I just like everyone's saying we're not going to re-sign Hurst at the end of the season, but I think there's a very real possibility that he does get re-signed because of the two tight end system that's kind of taking over the NFL.
I want him to ball out. I want him to ball out and make us re-sign him. That would be a good thing for us.
I was just going to say it's a heavy tight end draft next year, but Hunter already knows that.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. It's kind of one of those things, like pros and cons, right? Like, do you waste or not waste, I guess, use $9 million to resign him potentially, or just draft we got 2 second-round picks now, so do you potentially send that a third or something to draft one? I don't know, who knows.
I know.
would you keep Ricardo? Would you keep Hayden Hurst?
There's no way. There's no way. Like, I love Hayden Hurst,
especially because you got to remember, Kyle Pitts is one of the highest. I think he's top 5 highest paid tight ends right now.
Yeah,
off his rookie contract,
where he was drafted. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're attributing a lot of money, and then you have to pay Calvin Ridley. Like, you have to,
mm-hmm.
Right? Like, what else are we gonna do? Right? You're gonna go in this season with Russell Gage? I don't know.
Yeah, and really, you haven't really seen wide receivers play under the franchise tag. That's the nature of their position and their minds. That's not going to work. They're not going to be a candidate for the tag. So, and that's a good segue into the receivers, and we'll get to the running backs. Mm-hmm. So, how do you feel about our receivers? Everybody, obviously, we lost, to me, one of the greatest wide receivers in NFL history.
Yes.
I thought if he had more tight ends, if he had more touchdowns, he had a chance to grab that number 2 spot in NFL history. That's how good and impactful he was. I don't think he has a realistic shot, because whenever you try to argue with Randy Moss or T.O. fans, it's hard to talk about a guy who has 70 less touchdowns than they had.
Yeah.
It's like but as far as running all the routes, he was the guy. But enough there. So I just say all that not to say I'm missing you, Julio, but more so that's a lot to replace.
I miss Julio.
That's a lot to replace, because he was our best possession receiver, our best deep receiver, our best intermediate route receiver. So now,
and the best decoy.
Right. So now all that falls to Calvin Ridley. And I don't have any doubt that Calvin could be successful, but it's going to be a little bit of adjustment with the majority of the double teams going his way. But then it goes to our wide receiver 2. What's your confidence level in Gage, Russell Gage?
I think he's a 3 at best. Like I don't see him anything more than a wide receiver 3.
But like he's turned into a pretty decent safety net. It's just like, for me, so obviously you have your XZ receiver, but that's the problem, is that I don't think Gage is an X receiver just because he doesn't threaten you vertically. Like, he's not going deep on you, right? So guys can sit on those underneath routes and just, be okay with giving that up, right? It's like the Michael Thomas effect. You're just going to sit and let him eat underneath because you don't care about him going deep.
But without the size, without the physicality that might.
Exactly.
I think that contributes to all his nicks and dings, because you have a guy who's relatively slight who can't threaten you down the field, so you just sit on him and punish him every time he hits. And he has taken some. Russell Gage is on more other defensive backs hit reels than any wide receiver in the league.
That man's always getting popped every single time he crosses the middle.
Yeah, but like I don't know, like this receiver room. I obviously see a lot of Kyle Pitts playing outside. A little bit,
and I think that's how you can get away with cheating with that wide receiver 2, as long as you have, talking about from a team building, a GM mindset. Again, Russell Gage is going to be a free agent, and I hope he catches 80 balls this year, and I wish him good luck at wherever he goes next. But you should always be able to think like, I can cheat with my wide receiver 2, because really he's my wide receiver 3, because Kyle Pitts is my wide receiver 2. So
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, like through and through, like you could probably throw Kyle Pitts into this, because I think, I was saying on Twitter, like when we first drafted him, like he's got to see 130 targets this year easy, especially with the elongated season. Like,
right,
it'd be a crime if he didn't. I know people are going to be like, oh, we're going to be running the ball more. Like, to be honest with you, like I think we're going to be more balanced, and I think it's going to be more efficient running. But I still see the offense going through the pass, just because you made that investment in Kyle Pitts. You have Hayden Hurst, you have Calvin Ridley, you have Russell Gage. Like Mike Davis is a good back. He's an above average back, but he's not going to give you anything special. So you're still gonna, like how we used to do when we didn't have the O-line before, you're still gonna throw the backs out of the backfield, and that's gonna be like an extension of your run game as well. I hate to do coaches speak, but that's literally what it is, right? Just because if it's anything like it is today, like that's probably what we're gonna have to do. And Arthur Smith's really good at doing those kind of things, is throwing to the backs of the backfield. And we have a couple backs in Hawkins and Mike Davis that can actually get it done. So.
We also have Patterson too, the converted.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Who I'm really excited to see in this offense because of the ability of him catching out of the backfield.
Yeah, it feels like he's been underused, but with the back room that we have, he's going to have to be properly used. And one of the things that follows Arthur Smith is his wide receiver 1 was 31st in the NFL in targets. His wide receiver 2 was 27th. And his wide receiver 3 was, I think, somewhere in the late 20s or 30s as well. So the idea that we need 3 wide receivers, because that we need all these wide receivers, I think what he does is he is not going to over target anybody. So I think, like you said, the plan to try to get the running backs involved as an extension of the running game, especially with what we see from our offensive line so far, and we definitely don't have. We definitely don't have a Derrick Henry here to carry the load and move the sticks like that. Not that you have to, but I think it's going to be more of a balanced attack. And I think using Patterson out of the backfield on some sweeps, on some wide zones, even maybe on some inside zones, to see if he can cut it back against the crease and hit it real quick, because he's a big play waiting to happen. And we're going to need, if we're going to get to that that 8-9, 9-8 thing, we got to have a lot of things break right.
Yeah,
we got to, like, the idea that we're going to luck up into a 10-7 or 11 is I don't see that. But the good news is with the extra playoff berth, if we could luck up into a 9-8, we could be in the race.
I have a question for y'all. Do y'all want to make the play?
Ooh, you see how I am on Facebook. I'm worse in real life. No. No. And in today's NFL, it does not pay to be mediocre good enough.
NFL mediocrity.
Yeah,
it's the worst place to be.
Yeah, it's listen, that's why, well, I'm not gonna do the whole Justin Fields thing or the Trey Lance thing, but since none of us seem to be scared of the rebuild word, I'm going to use it in this sense. I just want the quickest way to get the best results, and that means I'm not paying a wide receiver. If you've heard my rant about running backs, I feel almost the same way about wide receivers. I feel
Wait, you hate running backs too?
Yeah, bro.
Yes!
I have articles on hating running
sir.
back. I don't care who you are. Don't pay a running back. Never, 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 never. And if you have a top flight wide receiver, only pay him once. So I didn't want to pay who.
Yes, sir.
So to answer your question without taking off half of our audience, listen, if something happens, the thing is 10-6, 6-10 is all relative. See, the thing is, it's a missed fumble, it's a missed field goal here, a muffled punt there, and these guys are all talented. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm looking for is growth and development from the sense where we have that core that we want.
Yeah,
and I think that there's to be a smart fan is just look at what they're telling you by what they did not get. So they're already there. We just have to wrap our minds around it. Like this is what they've decided to do. They don't have the interior protection because they're not going to get the interior protection because they don't want to pay for it.
That's exactly it.
So my answer would be the fan of me, of course, wants the Falcons to get in the playoffs. But to your point, not at all costs, right? So I don't want to see 7 transactions where we're restructuring, we're re-signing to get to the playoffs. If we are on our path, which to me is a rebuilding path, and we're scared to admit it, and we find ourselves in the playoffs, man, good for us. So I can't say that I want us to necessarily fall out of the playoffs because unless we're competing for, we've seen what if we're competing for that number 1 pick, and we had a chance to change the franchise. I don't want to see that again. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that level of ineptness again. So I think there's a midway to do that. I think you can do both of them.
I wish I would. I agree. I just feel like you either have a quarterback or you do not.
Yeah.
So a couple of things, because now we got to have you guys back to talk defense after another game, closer to the season. Yeah. But let's talk about some things that's going on at training camp that may be a surprise to you. What's going on? So what are your biggest surprises? We'll go around round table, positive and negative from the reports out of training camp. So Adam, what you got?
I hate to toot my own horn, but there's a couple guys that I actually love that are actually showing out. Like today, they kind of showed out as well. But Chris Williamson, he was undrafted free agent last year for 7th round pick last year for the Giants. We got him last year under Dan Quinn and stuff, but he's actually turning heads at camp. He actually had a good offseason with Oliver Davis. He's a DB coach in Georgia, actually. He trains guys like Jalen Ramsey. AJ Terrell trains there as well. This is where I've seen it. And my favorite, and I think Hunter's favorite corner too, JC Horn from the past draft cycle. So yeah, I know there's a lot of group think with me.
Where does Jeff Okuda train?
I'm not sure. He'll be coming back. He'll be coming. He'll be good this year.
I just had to get that one in.
He was bad last year. It's funny. I'd never seen when he was a Buckeye, I'd never seen him play that bad. So that kind of took me back. I was like, whoa, what the heck? But I guess we can't have them all in Ohio State, right? Yeah. So Chris Williamson, he's kind of getting some first team reps, and I'm excited for him. He's a big. I think he's about 6 foot 205. He's a big physical corner. He knows how to lower the boom a little bit, and he's a solid player. Ogundeji, the 5th round pick.
Hey, you were on him on draft day. You were on him since draft day.
Because we were picking, and then I was doing the breakdowns like right after. Just I was waking up early in the morning, and just kind of looking through the film just to see, because obviously, like I do a billion breakdowns of guys, but Ogundeji just slipped through the cracks for me somehow, and I didn't, and I was surprised because I coach D-line here in Canada, so it's one thing I feel like I have the best eye for, and yeah, he is just one of those guys. He's so long. For as long as Kyle Pitts is, like, I'm pretty sure Ogundeji is a little bit longer than him. And he just knows how to use his length. One of my first things when I turned on the game when I got home from my son's game was he looks like he's bulked up a bit from Notre Dame. Like he looks skinny at Notre Dame.
Yeah,
he looks like he's put on some healthy weight. And the first rush I seen, he had this patented long arm.
He's a long arm guy. He's a long arm guy.
Yeah, he just pushes you, and you can't do nothing about it. And he just put him right into the lap of the quarterback. And I'm like if this is what he's going to be doing to offensive tackles, like I'm in. I'm all the way in on this. We need a hit like that, a 5th round hit, to just come in and be a dominant player, right? Like that would be so good. And he's tough. He's physical. I seen him like at the start of second half. He was chasing down kick returners. He's probably been my favorite player to watch so far in the preseason, and I'm enjoying his game. A couple guys I'm disappointed in. I would say Mayfield. I don't know. Word out of camp, like he was doing really good at right tackle.
Right.
I watched 3 straight rushes, and he just got turnstiled on each one, and it's like, if this was the plan to replace McGarry, if McGarry was hurt, like it's making me question what we're doing, man. Because it's like, I just think his arms are shorter than McGarry's, and we're gonna put him on an island at right tackle. I just think you're asking for all sorts of trouble. I'd rather him just go to left guard. If he's average, then he's gonna be as good as if he's average, he'll be better than Josh Andrews. That you know what I mean? I'd rather just put him at left guard and just see what we have this year, because you got to figure out where to play him. You invested a third, I believe, on him. And there's guys like Wyatt Davis from the Buckeyes, who's an All-American guard.
Don't even get me started on that.
Kendrick Green, a guy who we liked, who is an absolute animal for Pittsburgh in the preseason so far. And there was somebody else that we really liked, Hunter, that was there. I forget. But
it was Quinn Miners.
Quinn Miners.
Don't bring that up. It's too soon.
The scheme-specific player and the outside zone scheme that fit this scheme, that's an offensive guard and center, and we didn't take him. We took him an experimental tackle. But like I said back then, like I said through all my draft recaps, it's like if your plan was to take best player available in each round and that's what you did, I can respect that. But I just need you to find somewhere to play that guy, because a high third round pick, when there was other players that fit the scheme, would be frustrating. It would be frustrating to see like Wyatt Davis, Green, and Miners to go on and be, above average or average offensive lineman, and we're stuck with Mayfield, who's at best maybe a swing tackle. Like that would be frustrating, because now we still have that left guard.
That would be terrible. That would be terrible.
Right, and it would be. And, I am a bit salty because we could have had a Buckeye on this team.
Oh, that's what it is. That's really what it is the whole time. So passing one Buckeye, it's a problem. Passing 2, he's storming the castle.
Well, I was just thinking, first round we go Justin Fields. Second round we get another Buckeye. Third round we get just.
It ain't a bad idea.
Who are your big surprise guys, positive and surprise guys, maybe for the negative?
So one of my big surprise guys has been Cordell Patterson. Honestly, seeing him his name pop up in so many good things from the running back position was super cool because he hasn't played running back very long. He was drafted as a receiver.
Right.
So like seeing the big plays that he's made throughout the like preseason and stuff like pop up on the timeline has been super, super cool. I've also like a storyline that I really liked was seeing that Foye has like transitioned to the mic role in the defense.
Gerald, I saw Gerald somewhere in the chat. Thank you very much. Thank you. There's a limited amount of us who are like, can we get Debo out of the mic and Foye in? So yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Like I think it's a way to like just maximize both of their like efficiency in the defense.
Right.
And that's not a knock on either one. I just
not at all.
I did not like seeing Debo as the mic in the under scheme. I would rather seen him like ranging the sidelines.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a different story. And for the underachieving one, honestly, it's back to Jalen Mayfield for me. Like,
bro, every pod I'm on, every time it's like, who is the underappreciated? Oh, it's Mayfield. Oh yeah, you know what is for me as well.
Like,
it's always like that. It's always. Like
it's not necessarily Mayfield exactly. It's more rooted in the fact Josh Andrews is our starting left guard at the moment. Like the fact no one has been able to step up and compete with him.
That's a message.
Blows my mind.
Yeah, that's a message.
I'm kind of blaming Mayfield for that because he was the 3rd round pick when Wyatt Davis, who was my number 1 interior ranked lineman in the draft class, like number 1 guard, not center, but number 1 guard was there and we didn't pick him. I'm a little salty about that one, but whatever. Apparently he's killing it in Vikings training camp is what I've heard. hey, whatever,
Great.
right? You know, we got Jalen Mayfield.
Not salty. We have our second wing tackle because right now he's slated to be. He's behind Beavers. Like he if the season started now, he wouldn't be on the 53. But that's okay for a 3rd rounder. That's getting close to my disappointment. That's getting close to my disappointment.
If we hit on the 2nd rounder and we start sucking on 3rd rounders, I'm okay with that because at least we're getting 2 good players. Because our 2nd rounders and our TD were awful. God awful.
So maybe the next GM will be 4th, and then maybe eventually we'll be missing on the 7th rounders.
We're gonna get to that on my disappointment because I have a disappointment that's right in your face and you're not thinking about it. Ricardo,
well, I thought we were going to go.
Who's your guy?
I thought sure we were all going to go 4 for 4 as far as disappointment. Now the only thing is, I want to say, I think we don't like this Mayfield because I think we don't like him because when we got him. I think if we got him in the 5th, we kind of all right. You know.
Right.
You know, I think just when we got him, passing these 2 Buckeyes that we got, you know, I'm going to tell you guys something. I did not know. Surprise, good for me. I did not know AJ Terrell was this good. I thought, I didn't know he's that good because I don't get to see the games as much.
Right.
I just was like, oh my goodness! Whoa, he can play. He's gonna be a keeper. You know.
Well, let me be honest. He wasn't this good. Let's not rewrite history. Okay. He has his ups and downs, but he was tough and he wasn't lost. Okay. And so for a cornerback, you know, like all this fancy evaluation, the scariest thing is a lost cornerback out there, and he was never lost. So even if a guy caught a ball on him, he never gave you that lost thing. Like, does this guy know how to play football? So that's a good one. So I'm gonna go a little bit different for my guy that's doing. So I'm concerned about a couple things. Let me jump on my soapbox. We have a punting issue going on here, right? And we already committed the cardinal sin of drafting a punter, right? So we drafted a punter, and I didn't like him in preseason. Well, no, we didn't have a preseason, but I didn't like him early in the season. And I was like, surely we got to bring somebody in to punt against him. And so now he's injured, code word, disappointing. And so we're in a little bit of trouble in our punt game. And we need to fix that. That's one. The second part that I would say is I like all the guys that you guys have liked, right? So I like all the same guys that you like. I'm kind of cheering for Dahlman because I just like tough guys. I don't care what size they are. But what I'll say, my disappointment is a guy who's kind of flying under the radar, and that's Marlon Davidson. Like, for me, the last interview that he had, he said, well, I just want Grady to know that when he comes out, somebody's going to come in there who's going to be fighting just as good as him. And I was like, wait a minute. We don't draft second rounders to be backups for superstars. Like, the fact that he would say that, because, let's spin the story. Oh, he got distracted last year. But what I heard was, I'm going to be the backup to Grady. And I'm like, you don't waste a second, just like you don't waste a third rounder. You can't waste a second rounder as a backup. So I'm hoping that he does something differently. But if the plan is to make our second round pick from last year primary responsibility to be Grady's backup, that's disappointing.
I'm not going to be the I told you so guy, but he was at Auburn doing pretty much the same thing. I mean, he had these, these moments, but it looked like it was just like, man, he had two beasts right next to him. So, of course, I just think he looked better than he actually was. The tape lies sometimes. He don't get chipped. Sometimes it was just wide open. He's just got to get quick enough to the gap, and that's what would happen. And so it made his tape look decent. I never thought he was a second round pick.
I hated him as a second round pick.
I
like him as a player, but not
yeah. And again, just like with the Mayfield, maybe if he was a fourth round guy, you don't have these expectations. But second round guys are not. I don't want to hear you.
You can't miss.
Right.
The draft doesn't start till the second, third round.
So I want to thank you guys for coming on with us. Appreciate you. So this is just part one because we're gonna have you back on.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's think about some defense, work out a time that works for you guys, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure.
Of course. Thank you all
Thanks for having us, man.
All right.
Awesome show, young man. I appreciate you, brother. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Guys, we thank you so much from Hunter and Adam. Thanks for coming on. For Jameen and myself, we're always grateful for our viewers. Give us a like on and subscribe to us on our YouTube channel and our Facebook. YouTube, We Dat Sports Atlanta Twitter, We Dat Atlanta Sports. Until next week, we'll be on next Thursday with an NBA draft analyst that's probably one of the best in the business, Rafael Barlow. Really, really excited about that. So until next week, I wanted to say peace up and 8-Town down.